I love you in a way that you're a fellow man, and I don't want to see anybody that I
Allegedly.
know.
Except you just assume my gender. I'm sorry. I'm taking your moment away. I apologize.
You. I'm sorry. I should not have assumed your gender.
Yeah, don't.
Do you prefer they?
No,
Z,
he's fine. He's fine.
Zim?
I would just prefer you not assume it. That's all.
You're listening to the Unframe of Mind show, the place to have the most mind-stretching, unprotected intellectual intercourse of your life. Your hosts battle the forces of evil by lobbing fiery balls of truth, reason, and evidence over safe room walls.
Okay, well, I guess I have to know, Daniel, how is it that you came to be friends with Hagatha?
That's hilarious. The first thing that we discuss on this entire conversation is Hagatha Sisti. That's our friend. Our friend Billy does a character named Hagatha. And a few years back, I ran into Hagatha and immediately recognized his satire. But as I was looking at the comments and whatnot, I noticed a lot of people, they didn't quite think that it was satire. They were like buying it hook, line, and sinker. And so if I remember right, I reached out and we ended up having an interview. We brought Hagatha in for a discussion. I did not tell Anthony about this. We actually have an entire Hagatha playlist you can check out to see how this whole story played out. We didn't tell Anthony at all, Billy or I. And Anthony came into the studio, didn't know what to expect, and I'm just like, man, I don't know what to expect with this character. Man, I saw her online, and some crazy lefty, and he was. You could watch the look in his face through that whole first episode. He is being so polite. It's ridiculous. So we just went on and just had a lot of fun with Hagatha, and we do shows together every now and again, and she promotes our stuff, and we promote her stuff every now and again, helping each other out. So it's a lot of fun. So I'll tell you what. Let's jump into the conversation, and I'm going to give folks you a chance to tell people who you are and kind of how we came to even want to have this discussion, or I could do it. I don't care. Who are you?
Well, my name is BJ Spangler, and I'm actually a born-again Christian. I used to be a drug addict and womanizer, and now I'm saved, born again, and I'm actually youth pastor at my church here in Aberdeen, Washington. And I think that we got into this discussion. We were talking about, I think it was God protecting us from the virus.
Yes.
I'm not wearing a mask because God's going to protect me. And I've heard that a lot.
Oh, you actually have heard that?
I have heard that.
Okay.
And actually, I'm a firm believer that our days are numbered, and that when it's our time, there's nothing we can do to stop that. And when it's not our time, I think we're invincible. But then at the same time, it's kind of like, you're not supposed to tempt God and jump off a bridge without a parachute or something,
Well, so interestingly enough, the entire conversation started around a post I made that basically it was a left-leaning T-shirt quote that said something along the lines of, well, if you believe that you don't need a mask because God will protect you, then why do you need a gun?
Oh, that's right.
Yes, and it was a very. See, as I'm listening to this, I'm going, that is an argument I've heard Republicans or Christians specifically make. Not like all of them or nothing like that, but I have heard them make it, and in bigger numbers than you might think. Well, you might know because you said you heard them, but I don't agree with either one of those points, so I went ahead and posted it anyway, and just to see. I'm one of those shit stirrers that loves to kind of stir the pot, see what people say, and it was very interesting. I found it interesting that people jumped on the bandwagon and wanted to say, in not so many words, well, not all Christians. We're not all like that. We're not all like those crazy people that and it's like that's not really the argument being made, but it was interesting that it's almost this jump to conclusions that happens, where you just kind of like instant defense mode, defend my good name, my label that I have attached to myself, and that was I don't know if that was your experience in the comment section.
Somewhat, and there's a little bit. There's some people that support my view as well, and I think that the main problem is we're living in a time that's so volatile and so, I guess you would say, bipolar.
Yeah.
You know, you're either on this side or you're on this side. There's no middle ground. There's no middle discussion. If you don't agree with me, then first thing I do is insult you or attack your intelligence, or, you know, and I just, you know, I don't think that's a way we're going to get anywhere as a society.
Yeah, you make an excellent
Not be able
point.
to find some kind of common ground, you know?
Imagine that, an atheist and a Christian here having a conversation and trying to find common ground. How does that even happen? Now, for folks who don't know, you are actually my second cousin.
This is true.
Yeah, I mean, not that it really overly matters that much for the particular conversation, but I just thought it was interesting that we started having a discussion. I've never really interacted with you before, other than, you know, here and there on Facebook.
Right.
And if I did, I was too little to remember. You are my. Let's see if I get this right. You are my grandfather's sister's son, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
So
See,
your mother is my first cousin.
Right. Once you get past about 2 degrees of separation in the family, I start going, I don't know. I think they're related or something.
Right. Well.
So.
Yeah, and it's not like it's not like we had the family reunion every year and hung out together a lot. So this is pretty much our first real adult conversation, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Face to face.
I would like to dig in a little more and get a better sense of, you know, because I'm getting this. I'm hearing that you said you're born again Christian. You had a past with a drug abuse, with as far as being a womanizer and whatnot, things like that. And you've actually come quite a ways since then. So I'm trying to get a sense of, you know, how does that journey take place for you? Can you give us a little more detail?
Well, I'll preface by saying I think that one of the major issues going on in society today is the fact that we have no positive male influences in the homes anymore, and there's no fatherhood is not deemed essential in a household anymore. And I think there's so many men that have cast off that responsibility of being a father. And I think because of that, it's a generational thing, and it's been going on for, you know, of course, my whole life. And I think my father was the same way. He didn't know his dad, and my dad was in prison most of my life. And because of that, I sought out ways to feel like a man, or to be a man. And the people that I was surrounded by were people that were partiers and drinkers and, you know, bikers and strippers. And, you know, so I thought the more I could drink, the manlier I was, the more women I could lay, the manlier I was, the more people I could win a fight against, the manlier I was.
That's all true. And that's all true. Absolutely. Yeah. That's definite marks of manhood in 2020 for sure.
Right. So that was my pattern of life. I got to the point where it was, you know, I'm doing drugs. I'm actually, IV needle drug user at the time. Heroin was my drug of choice.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, don't be sorry. I mean, I beat the statistics, right? I mean, here I am sober now, and that's really a really oddity, I guess, in that addiction. So here I am at the I guess I'm getting to the bottom of rock bottom, and doesn't matter who I bring home. I'm always lonely. I'm always depressed and sad, and I'm struggling with you know, suicidal thoughts a lot, suicidal fantasies and whatnot. And, you know, finally I just came to the end of myself, and I was like, I was working in California, and I was driving a articulating dump truck in a quarry down there at nights, and I was listening to talk radio, and I got sick of NPR and was flipping through the channels and found a CSN, which is Christian Satellite Network, and started listening to these preachers.
Okay.
And it just started clicking. It started making sense. And I thought, well, this is exactly where I am, and I'm not happy. And this is all true. And the world is evil. I look around me and I see all these things going on. I was, you know, amateur conspiracy theorist as well, I suppose. So I'm seeing all these things that I perceive as evil in the world. And it makes sense that the Bible says that, well, Satan is the ruler of this world. And until Christ comes back and redeems the world totally, the world is going to be evil. And I realized that if that part of it was true, maybe the rest of it was true. And I really started to immerse myself into the Word and study and listen to preachers. And oh man, the more I learned, the more I believed it, and the more I facts I put together that are extra biblical, they all seem to point to God as a creator and Jesus Christ as Savior, and I just
Sure.
I went all in, man.
There was a phrase you used in there that I wanted to dig deeper into. It was interesting. You said you came to the end of yourself.
Sure.
Like what does that mean? I don't. To you, what does that mean? I kind of got a sense, but I'd rather hear
from my perspective, that would be, I don't know if you're familiar with like AA or NA. Their rock bottom is you admit that you're powerless to overcome your addiction or whatever. And that was kind of the way I found that no matter what I did by my own power, I could not dig myself out of the hole that I was in. I couldn't get away. I couldn't get sober. I couldn't hold down a job. I couldn't, all these things that I could not do, no matter how hard I tried, no matter how hard I wanted to. I was just powerless to do it. And it was to the point of either dying to myself or killing myself, and I chose to die to myself and give that to God and let God, look, God, here I am. I'm just a piece of crap. You know everything. So you know what is in my heart. You know what I'm going through and what I've done to myself, and I can't do it anymore, and I need a way out.
So,
and go ahead.
Would you say you were a believer before all of that, and just maybe weren't as practicing, or were you more of an atheist before this realization?
I would say that as a little bitty guy, I went to some Sunday school classes. I lived next to a church, and Mom would let me walk the block away to the church, and I would go down there and go to Sunday school. And I think that in Sunday school class, I actually said the sinner's prayer and asked Jesus into my heart way back then. But then I pretty quick fell into a lifestyle very opposite of that. And I would say deep down, I always believed.
Yeah.
I was never atheist. I may have been a little agnostic, touch of agnostic, maybe, but I could never buy.
I've heard that a lot. So when you say
I could never buy into the fact of evolution, that was the thing that tripped me up. Was I never could believe that all this intricacy of existence came from an accidental, chaotic explosion where nothing exploded and made everything. I just couldn't buy that,
Me either. Honestly, I don't really know what the answer is, but I can't buy either one of them. Really, I don't know. It's way beyond my mind. So you also said you are a born again Christian. I've heard like when women use born again Christian, I've almost get this association of they are now considering themselves fresh virgins again, and like all of their sexual indiscretions in the past they don't really count anymore. That we're starting fresh. I don't suspect that's how you're using that. So for you, what's that mean?
Well, that is part of it, actually. But I say born again is I use the phrase earlier as well as like dying to myself. So what? See, in the Bible, you have a incident where one of the religious leaders of the day, Nicodemus, sneaks out at nighttime and meets up with Jesus, and he asks him, well, what do I have to do? And he said, "Marvel not, Nicodemus, unless you are born again, you cannot be saved." And Nicodemus asked him, "What do you mean? Am I supposed to crawl back up inside my mom and be born again?" and he said, Jesus says to him, "No." He says, you must be born of water, and then you must be born of spirit, born again of spirit. So basically what you believe as a Christian is when Adam and Eve sinned in the garden, there was a spiritual death that took place. And since that point, mankind has this drive or this desire for spirituality, because our spirit, our God-given spirit, has died in us, or we're not born with it anymore because it died in Adam and Eve. So when you're born again, that Holy Spirit of God comes inside of your heart, and you're born of the Spirit. Changes your mind, softens your heart to things of the Lord, and basically, it didn't happen all at once, but my attitude towards my worldview changed. Things that I used to be okay with, I started to think were probably not okay anymore, and I was convicted about certain things.
Right.
And it's a kind of a slow process. I heard for some people it's instant. For me, it wasn't like that. For me, it was, and I still work at it. It's
So basically, what you're saying is you're a little hard-headed, and it just took you a little while to kind of really get it to sink in. Is that a fair assessment?
that you could put it that way, I guess.
I totally get it. I'm the same way.
I would maybe say it's more of like you get used to a pattern or a behavior or even a habit, and it's like, stop biting your fingernails or stop smoking, or it takes a while sometimes for that to finally go away,
Right.
or finally stop being attractive to you.
So now, I'm seeing the picture behind you. I assume you're a family man. You were talking to me on the phone earlier. You were putting the kids to bed and having dinner with them and whatnot. And I'm sitting there thinking, just based on what you just told me, I'm like, that is a wide, far cry different story that you have for yourself now than you did then. And I'm assuming all of that you lay at the feet of God then.
I do, yeah.
I'm not trying to trap you. I'm just making sure I understand where you're coming from. That's awesome. No, I'm glad you decided to make that turnaround. I'm glad you found something that offered some kind of a structure that allowed you to pick yourself up and get out of the position you were in. I mean, a lot of people get to rock bottom and they stay there, or even worse. And fortunately, I'm like, again, I'm super happy you made it past that, and you are now on the other side of things, regardless of how you came to it. Do I think you're crazy for being a believer? Maybe a little bit, but that's okay. See, because one of the things that a lot of people don't know about me is I used to be a Christian when I was younger, and there was just too many inconsistencies and things that didn't click with me. The same way you said the evolution thing never quite stuck or clicked for you.
Right.
It was kind of like that for me the other way, and eventually I ended up becoming an atheist. Well, when I first found my atheism, so to speak, I used to be like militant atheist, going attacking Christians and being rude to them, and just calling them idiots, basically. That immature, childish crap that you might do when you're in 6th to 12th grade.
Right.
However, as times moved on, and I've learned a lot about the world, and I've become a lot more studied in these things, is if I was to choose a set of beliefs for somebody who didn't have the ability to come up with their own or research their own or something, I would put the Bible in front of somebody. I would put Christianity as that pedestal religion for others to follow if they don't have anything else, and because it's absolutely wonderful in terms of universal ethics and the modes of treating one another, and the whole treat others the way you would be treated kind of golden rule style sense to it, as far as most practicing Christians. Now the book itself is a whole nother story, pun intended. But as far as the actual people that practice the religion and what they tend to believe in general, it tends to be overall good, I think, for society. So I don't know if that helps clarify anything or not for you, but that's kind of where I'm at. I'm not on the attack. I'm actually perfectly okay with you believing the way you believe, as long as you let me believe the way I believe. And the discussions can be had, and I love having the discussions. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I honestly think that you and I have a very similar worldview. I don't know what your political leanings are, but I would say you're more libertarian.
No, my political leanings are none.
Okay.
No, and what it is it's interesting. The few labels, and people who've watched the show long enough have heard this. The few labels I attach to myself are atheist and anarchist. And really what those labels do is they just tell you what I don't believe. They don't tell you anything about what I do believe.
Right.
I don't believe in government. I don't believe in religion and God. I just don't. That's pretty much it. If you want to know me, you're going to have to talk to me, and you're going to have to get to know the details. Now, as far as politics goes, I would probably say more libertarian than anything else. Started out probably more Democrat when high school through maybe early 20s. And slowly, gradually, once I started listening to talk radio, I started hearing their ideas. I'm like, wait a minute, that makes a lot of sense. So I started becoming a Republican at some point. I never registered to be a Republican or nothing like that. But and then after I got bored of radio, which is funny because the story you said about getting tired of NPR and you started listening to another station. Well, I got bored of terrestrial radio and started listening to podcasts. And the beauty of podcasts is I could go out and just pick whatever topic I wanted, and somebody had a podcast on that subject. And so I could listen to all manner of discussions and debates and lines of inquiry. And it was amazing. I was introduced to a gentleman by the name of Stefan Molyneux. And he has a couple books about anarchism and anarchy, everyday anarchy. And the other one is Practical Anarchy. And they're free ebooks you can get on his website. And I went through those and I started listening. I've been listening to the different arguments he had, and I'm like, wait a minute, that this is like it hurt my brain at first, to be perfectly honest. It was like, what am I listening to? This is crazy. And introduced me to peaceful parenting also. So yeah, this gentleman was Stefan was the reason I don't spank my kids anymore. We negotiate. I treat them like, I wouldn't say like adults, but I do treat them like human beings, if that makes sense. It's just a fascinating, to me, it's a fascinating series of events. And I feel like I'm going way off topic here. But the general gist of what I was trying to say is the only labels I attach to myself are just ones that tell you what I don't believe. That's it.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. I actually considered myself anarchist at one point in time, and then it was like you in the high school days. I thought I was liberal. I thought, and then I was I believed in no government, and then I believed that whatever you do, as long as you don't hurt me, whatever. And one day I was working at a house in San Francisco, and I got out of the taxi cab, and the cab driver was like, "This is as far as I can go. You're going to have to walk from here." And I got out of the cab, and I found myself right in the middle of the Gay Pride Festival in San Francisco. So
instantly you were no longer an anarchist, and you felt like government had to control these freaks that are... Sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
No, not quite, but I did realize that I wasn't liberal. I saw, first of all, whatever somebody wants to be that's between them and God. I'm not here to judge somebody who's not a Christian. It's not our job as Christians to judge non-Christians, because the world lives how the world lives, and you expect that. But what I saw at the Gay Pride was I saw the thing that really turned me off was I saw two naked men pantomiming a sex act in the middle of the street in front of, I mean, they're faking it, but still.
How do you fake it when you're naked?
Right.
I need details and pictures. Pictures, please.
Well, hang on. Let's see if I got a picture pulled up here.
Send photos.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But it was that.
Kids, do not look that up. Do not look that up.
But what bothered me was while this was going on, which this made me uncomfortable in itself. But while it was going on, I look over and there's a lesbian couple, and they have little kids in strollers. Probably 3 to 5 years old, and they're pushing them in these strollers, and these kids are wide-eyed staring at these naked men, grinding each other and twerking and whatever. And I just thought, why would you want to take your innocence from your kids in that way? Why wouldn't you let their sexual being awaken in them in a more natural way than to plop them right in the middle of the lewdest display the United States has?
I totally get it. I totally get it. And it's funny because when I was a kid, all I had to do to stand out was maybe like spike my hair a little bit. And that was that was enough to trigger the adults. But damn, now we're just straight up naked, grinding each other in the street in front of children. Anything to get attention, I guess. That's disgusting. Quite frankly, I would never do that even to my adult children. Like, I wouldn't do that in front of anybody ever. I don't know why.
Right. There's no reason to put that out on the street like that.
So you saw that, and then there was some kind of a shift or change in you.
Yeah. Then I decided, maybe I am conservative actually, and then the more I researched politics, I kind of like the libertarian view of government, which is just less is better.
Right.
And what I finally landed on, if I had to put a label on it, I would say it would be a conservative constitutionalist.
Interesting.
I think our founding fathers had a stroke of genius, and I think that it was actually God inspired. But I think that the way they set up the nation as a constitutional democratic republic was amazing, and it was so self-governing. There's so many checks and balances in a properly functioning government that there's really no way that that you could ruin it in one presidency or one government cycle.
Yeah, the idea that if you can keep it, right?
Right. And I didn't think that one cycle could ruin it until this one started. I'm kind of a little nervous about Joe. I think he's sold out to China or something's going on here. So I don't know.
Yeah. Now, honestly, I don't know if it's just my natural aversion to authority or what that makes me kind of rebel against everything that's like institutional. And I noticed you said you went from being like an anarchist to more of a conservative, and you kind of compared an anarchy to a liberal viewpoint. And that's interesting because I consider myself an anarchist, but it's not a liberal viewpoint either. It's more of the ultimate extension of libertarianism. It's just instead of small government, it's no government at all.
Right.
I guess what did that mean to you when you were going down the path of anarchy?
Well, okay. I think that where my misgivings were in liberalism, I misunderstood what that meant. Mm-hmm. I misunderstood what it meant to be a liberal. And so the anarchist thing.
Sorry, I don't. Sorry to interrupt. You're not using liberal and anarchist as interchangeable, are you? Am I just
no?
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry if I sounded like that. But
yeah. Just making sure I was clear.
I guess I had a foot in each puddle. I didn't. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know. You're talking about. I was a young man. I was a little ignorant of politics and the ways of the world. And you know what it's like when you're.
Aren't we all?
It's like you have this cognitive dissonance happens, and all of a sudden, like one day you wake up and you realize your parents aren't perfect.
What?
You wake up.
No, hold on. Whoa.
Well, yours
parents aren't perfect.
Mine are screwed up. Yours are okay.
You might be right, actually. It didn't dawn on me till just now, but you might be right.
Oh no, this is called cognitive dissonance. Are you okay? Is your head hurt?
I'm going to be okay. If I pass out, I'm going to need you to just continue the show without me. Can you?
Okay.
Can you talk for like 10 minutes without interruption while I
can. I actually can. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Good. I will let you. See you later.
No, wait. But,
Come back.
No, I just think that the only reason I shifted from feeling like I was an anarchist and I wanted a little more structure was I think that the extreme left made me realize that we do need a police force. We do need a military. We do need some sort of a government of representatives on the world stage. And that is what I think should be the limitation of government. I do believe that our government is grossly obese. It's way fatter than it needs to be.
Grossly obese. That's the right. Yeah. Yes.
And I think that, really what you want and what I want are probably very similar. And maybe even the way we get there is very similar. I think that the only thing is that I say that my morality is instilled from God. Matter of fact, morality, period, is from God. And I think that I think maybe I could be putting words in your mouth, but I think maybe you would think that morality is a social construct.
No, not at all. I think actually, I do appreciate. Again, that's one of the teachings from Stefan Molyneux that I picked up on. He's got a huge book called Universally Preferable Behavior, and goes into explain how we can derive morals apart from religion and that kind of thing.
Oh, I've heard morality ascribed to as a social construct, as in a tribal setting. People figured out what worked in a community and what didn't work in a community, and that's how morals came about. And I've heard it said that, but I think that
oh, you're talking about moral relativism, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. No.
Yes.
No, I don't believe none of that. Basically, I'm kind of like on board with the "thou shalt not steal," murder